Good morning and welcome back to Better Together Homestead, where today we are drinking regrettable coffee and planting non-regrettable things in the garden. So,
why is it regrettable?
Because we dried off the cow and this is store-bought milk, and here's how my children phrased it. Well, it tastes better than salty water. I ruined them for life. I'm convinced of it. However, what we've not ruined is our garden planting. And I think we're set up enough that although it's February, we have things that we can put into our Vego beds today. So, Bo ran to the store. I haven't even seen these. Why don't you come with me and check out the plants we got? I haven't even seen these. However, we hit our first 80-degree day yesterday and I'm not messing around. I want to show you later what we were doing this time last year in February and how we're moving forward with that progress. It's like we're building like Lego. Like last year we put on that first layer of Lego, and so now we're gonna build something more in the garden to expand what we produce. I like this, Bo, how you've tucked this in.
Along with the baby blanket and Legos.
But you didn't bother, you didn't bother to tidy for the plants, but you were like, you will go home safely. If you're a little bit chilly, you'll be taken care of. Okay, things we have not done successfully before, mostly because I've just never really given them any attention, is regular cooking potatoes. I can't just call them white potatoes because we got a bunch of different kinds, but I have done sweet potatoes very successfully, and I would even say abundantly, but we've never done potatoes successfully. In fact, I wish we had the footage from years ago where we harvested potatoes and we got fewer potatoes in the harvest than what we planted. All of them are from Minnesota, so thanks for the love letter, Minnesota, and I appreciate your potatoes. I know that you can grow these from whatever you leave from the store. So if you buy potatoes from the store and they start to get little eyes on them and you didn't eat them fast enough, then you can turn them into seed potatoes, and I would highly recommend that. We've eaten a lot of potatoes this year, which is why I'm growing them. I had none go to seed before we ate them, and I would rather have my family fed than worry about whether or not I'm growing the potatoes for growing later. So this one is a russet. I think this is like a smaller version of the russet, and maybe this skins aren't quite as dense, is that the right word? And then I got some Yukon Gold, which we use a lot in mashed potatoes. And I just feel like if you can get color in your potatoes, why would you not do that? So I've never grown any of these, but we're gonna try these Adirondack Blues, and they're really beautiful. Let's see if we can grow potatoes this year, and you guys can follow along with us to see how successful we are. Another thing to follow along with this gardening season for your success is Vego Garden. We've partnered with this company for the last few years, and the success of our garden growth is woven in with their products. The modular beds have allowed us to customize not only what we grow, but the space we need to grow the most. Their seed trays are sturdy, and in our climate, we can even keep them outside to get a true head start on the season. So if you've got the garden on your brain, even if your last frost is weeks from now, consider Vego. From garden beds to trellises and even soils, Vego Garden has everything customers need to make their gardening experience unique. Because of their commitment to affordable pricing and longevity, Vego Garden is a one-stop shop to grab everything you need to grow it yourself this year. Because they love you so much and want you to grow the most, Vego's given us some discounts that you can find in the links below. Okay, so just imagine how delighted I'm gonna be in about 30 minutes when these are all in the garden, and it looks like I've been hard at work for months, but I really just took 30 minutes in the garden. All right, greens are what they are, and the stinky thing about growing greens in Texas is probably in the next 60 days, it's gonna be so hot that they're already bolting. So I like buying starts and getting them in the ground. We'll harvest a bunch of salad greens off of this. This is just a romaine. And I think this is like a solid 6 plants. Sometimes when you get them from the store, there's a couple of seeds that germinated. So here, this is gonna be a couple of seeds. I could probably separate some of this thyme. In one of my seed videos where we got seeds, I shared a lot of the goals that I have for the garden. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. But it's all about how I wanna grow more than I need this year because we have so many animals, and I have a little story in a moment about how my garden actually saved one of my animals' lives just this month. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's kind of what I'm going for in the garden this year. I have some strawberry plants already. but we grabbed a few today. The only thing about this is sometimes you don't know what kind of strawberry this is, but I'm guessing this is probably like a June bearing strawberry. We'll see. I can grow these now, and my current plants will be fruiting from usually March until sometimes late summer. It just depends on how much rain we get and how exposed they are to the sun. I think Bo and I were just talking before we turned the record button on. I think we outsmarted ourselves in a really good way and fixed this bed before the winter even came. Like, he was like, our amendments are here. I can go grab some compost on the tractor. And I was like, wait, before we put this bed to sleep, when we built it just a few months ago, we filled it with compost, then we amended it, then we put in like 2, maybe 3 inches of mulch. However, there's some weeds, because I lazy garden, and I do mean I lazy garden. You're gonna find weeds in my garden all year round. I love you. You have so many good gardening resources. This is gonna be our conversation resource. We're just gonna chat through some mistakes we've made. We're gonna chat through what we're doing to make those mistakes less obvious in the future. But something we did here that I would love to show you is the power of mulch. So like, there's grass that's coming up. There's gonna be some comfrey that comes up, which I wanted to in this bed, but like, this is how easy it is to pull that up because we mulched. This one right here is a little bigger. I'm reaching, hopefully my 40-year-old back makes it, but like, it's up. You see what I'm saying? Versus my beds that haven't been amended, that didn't have any mulch in them over the summer or over the winter. Here's the comfrey. We're gonna leave her here. She's lovely, she's resilient, she never quits, but I don't want this grass. So this is why I don't hate having weeds in my bed, because I just pull them up. And then I'm gonna start with my strawberries in this bed, and I'll put the greens in maybe the one next to it and just give it all some room. Or I could do greens and strawberries in this bed. That's actually what I'm gonna do, because the strawberries are gonna stay forever. The greens are gonna be done in a couple of weeks. I'm just spreading things out, mostly to think, all right, where am I gonna put all these plants? I think I'm gonna start here, and then probably another one here. One thing I know about these is when they're my first year plants, as they start to blossom, I'm just gonna pick those off. So I'm probably not going to eat any berries from this unless my toddler slash preschooler gets here before I do. She pulls everything green. All of the peppers, all of the tomatoes, everything green. And then she tells me how much she doesn't like them. And I kind of feel like it's her fault. I don't know how my brain works. I know a lot of people know that, but my brain is working now. We have put things in its proper place. I also was like, ooh, I think I like the look. Like, I know what I like the look of in gardens too, and maybe that is not as effective for planting, but I also see people plant this way, and so I like it, and it must work. So I'm gonna plant a row of lettuce here. These are gonna die in a few months, and I could actually probably plant some flowers in here. The strawberries are gonna go in but not get eaten from this season. A couple of these are, you know, when you buy them from the store, they're just gonna need extra love. Doesn't mean don't buy them. I've never started strawberries from seeds, but I presume we would never do that outside, and we would never do it in our Texas heat, because these babies get scorched up right quick. I'll do mostly 2/3 of this bed, because I'm gonna plant some vining stuff, probably loofah in here as we get closer to the warmer days. We had our first 80-degree day yesterday. I think it was 82. And then today is just below 70, and we're not gonna get into freezing temps. I mean, I'm not gonna say never again, because probably next year, but like definitely not for the rest of the year. So I am not afraid to plant any of these. And like I said, if I have to put a sheet over them because we have some freaky frost in the end of March, then we can do that. It's no big deal. But the vining things will go over here, probably loofah, maybe some beans. I think we're just gonna focus on loofah here because it did so well in seasons past. But we'll do that at the edge of both of these. And I was just telling Bo, like, if you look over here, not only do we have wooden beds to the other side of this garden,
we need some more Vego beds.
but we have 3/4 built wooden beds, right? Like, it's just gonna need 2 more long runners there, and then we can address all of this. We're not gonna waste these beds this season. But the plan when we first started this garden and began to like envision more than just cucumbers was that we would have these kinds of beds everywhere. And what I've noticed is, yes, this is a great idea, but we have a lot of life to live outside of our garden. And we have not gotten this garden bed complete to the way that we had designed in the first place. So when it came to planning for a spring garden back in the fall, this was a really good solution. This bed was actually a 4x8 bed. And now it's been shortened. I think this is probably like 4x5, maybe 4x6. I don't know how much shorter it got. It was in a different part of our house, like on a side, kind of like a kitchen garden. And then all of the chickens were laying their eggs in there and I was super disappointed in them. And we had an argument and I just said, fine chickens, I'm taking it away. This is where we took it away. And because we hadn't built the wooden beds halfway like they are everywhere else in the garden, we put this up, we filled it up, and everything, I think it was in less than 2 hours. So deconstructing the original Vego bed to a smaller size that fit this space, I was telling Bo, I was like, I feel like this is so much better of an option. I'm really glad that we had a Vego option that could not only move, but it could modulate to what our needs were in a new space. So this is really exciting because we not only got it moved, but we prepped the bed. Like, yet today me thanks yesterday me for being smarter than she thought she was. I would be wrong if I didn't tell you about how much work this garden has put in, even in our winter months here. So like, I get it. We're from Texas. If you're watching from like Vermont, you might be really disappointed in me for ever talking about my garden season because there's no way to do it without sounding like I'm bragging. But this is a brag that is on the garden and nothing to do with me, and just how fantastic it is when you sow a little bit into something like the earth or a plant, or even hapless in tossing seeds into your garden, and then they come in clutch. And this is what happened. We have a cow whom we love. Goldie is just a gem amongst gems. Bo is not super happy with her attitude right now because currently she's not in milk. And you know, you kind of love your cows a little bit more when you're with them every day and you're getting milk from them. So we got another cow, Honey, and Honey is a heifer, and she is bred and due actually in March of this year. But Honey came to us at the time of year where our temperatures go up and down and up and down. And in 10 days time, just like another story I've told on our channel before, we had both 80 degrees and 30 degree days. So Honey got something respiratory, like kind of like our version of a cold. And instead of bouncing back, the cold weather set in before Honey could really like recover from her travel to us and just get her immune system and probably her nervous system settled to our property. So Honey got this cold. And what happens with cows is a lot like people, but they don't have the bounce back like people do. So if my kids get a cold, they're gonna feel puny for a couple of days. We're gonna give them broth, we're gonna give them rest, and then they're gonna bounce back, even if they don't eat much. But with cows, their metabolism, especially dairy cows, is so delicate that it's like a furnace in your house, which we don't have in Texas, so it's a little ironic, I get it, hang with me here. If the feed is their fuel and the rumen is the furnace, they need feed inputs, supplements, hay during the winter, greens obviously during the spring. Some of the dairy are gonna have grains, and it's gonna keep that rumen going. It's their whole digestive, the center to all of their body working well, right? So if my cow gets a cold and she doesn't feel so great and she doesn't really want to eat, the problem is she feels bad, so she doesn't eat. And then she doesn't eat because she's so already at a deficit and she's feeling lousy. Honey was in this way, and she slipped into what I guess people would be like, she was on a keto diet, right? Keto burns fat and not fuel, or the fat becomes the fuel for your body. And for cows, that's not a great thing. People love the idea of being in ketosis and burning fat, right? Instead of just the fuel that they put in their body. But for cows, that's really bad. It's really bad when your cow doesn't eat. It's called going off feed. So we saw Honey looking pretty lethargic, kind of foggy in the eyes. And we knew, oh, we've seen this before when our dairy cow was in ketosis after she calved. Well, the first day, I hadn't talked to Suzanne yet, and so Honey is just kind of going downhill and not creeping back up. And we knew we needed to get some work going in her, so we had feed in front of her. We had every kind of option, all the sweet feed, which is basically like candy. It's like sugar-coated corn, and cows love it because it's super delicious for them. I don't think it would be delicious for us. So Honey gets a sweet feed, she's not interested. She gets lactation grain, she's not interested. She just keeps rejecting everything. And she's not into anything that whole first day. The second day, I've talked to Suzanne and she's given me some coaching on like, hey, these supplements would be good for her. Take this practice, go out to her every number of hours. Like we're not gonna be hands off on this cow for days. So we get Honey into the chute, we get her supplements in her. She is not happy, but she's letting us help her. And that's a huge thing for us because we don't have to wrestle a cow into letting us help her. And then finally, I see this fire ant. I see this text from Suzanne and she says, if you have kale in your garden, see if she'll eat it. And if she will, give her as much as she wants. And I walk into my garden and wouldn't you know that the season before, I was trying to figure out what could I put in this garden. I had a bunch of seeds left over. I was like, let's just throw kale in here because at the very least we can give this to the pigs. Little did I know, the kale would be exactly what Honey needed to get her furnace going. It was the fuel she was willing to eat, and it burned up really quick and really nice. She had light in her eyes, and we just kept giving her kale, and then all the supplements and all the care that we could. And the next thing we knew, her eyes were less foggy. And she was like running back to the pen instead of slowly slumping behind our other cow. And we got life back into Honey, and our garden literally saved our cow. I think that's so fantastic, and I'm really excited to share that story because I do think our garden saved our cow, and I'm not a particularly great gardener. Like, I do the things, I amend the soil, I come out here, I pull the weeds, but I'm not skilled and I don't have a ton of book knowledge to back up why I do what I do. But I do know that the provision of the garden somehow works with whatever skill level the gardener is bringing. So when I'm planting these, it might not be the most amazing yield of crop I've ever planted, but I do know it's going to yield a return, and I think that's a pretty fantastic thing. In a movie magic minute, we have planted 2 Vego garden beds, but I gotta say the green looks good, and I gotta say I love a start garden versus seeds. I'm sorry to all of you seed lovers out there. I might convert. I might become a seed lover over time, but as of today, in the year of our Lord 2025, I'm a start girl. So welcome, all ye start girls. And if you love gardening, and if you want to see how our garden grows, how our Vego beds do on their second year around, on how things grow in Central Texas and what we do when it gets crazy summer heat, and what we're gonna do with the abundance, because we're saying it, that's gonna grow in our garden. Come back here and follow us through the whole garden season. We're gonna be having tours at least monthly, probably a little more often than that, because there's a lot of work to be done and the progress is gonna be really exciting to follow. So thank you again, Vego, for sponsoring these videos. If you guys haven't seen or checked out their products, we've got links and discounts below. So go to the description, follow the link for all of the Vego stuff that we're using.